the woman that I was before I had a baby isn't here anymore.
Yeah.
She's not here. She's not even close to here.
Hi everyone and welcome back to No Place Like Home. I am Larissa and I'm here with Jess.
Hi everyone.
And today we are joined by the amazing Jaz, also known as Jaz Flowers.
Hello, beautiful people.
Hello. I'm so honoured to speak to you today because obviously you are also a dear friend of our incredible producer and No Place Like Home employee, Rach. And I've heard lots of little snippets about you, but I am so stoked that you're here with us. So thank you.
It is my absolute pleasure. I'm very, very excited to be here as well.
Yeah, cool. You have had quite a journey. Your life is eventful and beautiful and
Colourful was on the tip of my tongue.
yeah, all of the things. Tell us a bit about yourself, Jaz, for people that I don't know how they wouldn't know you, but
Bless you.
yeah.
Look, we won't go all the way back because that's very far, but I think I finished year 12 and I went away to uni and I studied musical theatre. So that's kind of where the colour began, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I studied, yes, it's a degree, musical theatre, believe it or not.
Yeah, wow.
And I have one of those. And so I have been performing my entire life. And then after university, I got into the professional musical theatre world. So I've been fortunate enough to be employed for, it was nearly 10 years, and I travelled the country and I moved overseas and did a heap of musical theatre performances.
Incredible shows.
Yeah, I did. I'm
Amazing.
very, very grateful. I did some incredible shows. Yeah.
Amazing. And then so then COVID, you weren't pregnant through COVID, were you?
No. After all of a sudden, I decided that I wanted more out of my life. Like I was living out of a suitcase. It sounds really glamorous that you're living in hotels and you're hanging around with famous Australian, people and whatever. And don't get me wrong, it was brilliant when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was approaching 30 and I went, I'm lonely. Like I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Like I'm a massive country girl. I've always been a country girl. At heart, I mean.
Yeah.
I didn't always live there, but I've always been a country girl at heart.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to go home. And so it was the last show I did was We Will Rock You, and that was in 2016.
Right.
And I said, I've had enough, I think, of being on the stage all the time and being away from my loved ones all the time. And I want more.
Yeah.
And my mum was retiring at the time and she owned a dance school. She had it for 47 years. She needs a prize. But
Yes.
47 years she owned the dance school for, and she was going to retire. And I went, no. Okay, you can retire, but can I have it?
Yeah.
And so I took my mum's business and I rebranded it and I turned it into Jaz Flowers Performing Arts. So I was essentially teaching the youths of the Latrobe Valley all of the things that I had learnt in my career. That was my plan, was to teach singing and dancing and acting to all of the local kids, and I did that for 7 years.
Right.
But COVID, unfortunately, in the middle of, when JFPA was just Jaz Flowers Performing Arts, JFPA, when that was, rising to the peak for me of how great it was. Yeah, COVID hit and my business went in the bin, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Like it suffered that bad. It was a really yucky time. But in my last year of JFPA, I fell pregnant. Yeah.
Okay.
It was very planned, by the way. I've kind of skipped that. I came home and I met a man and we got married, and I kind of skipped all of that. But
we figured it was somewhere in between all of that.
yeah, it was definitely in there. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what led me to been a mama.
And then, so even while you were pregnant, then after COVID, because you've got a huge following on socials,
Yeah.
so you're massive on TikTok, you've got a huge Instagram following. How did all that? Was that already there?
No.
Yeah.
No. During COVID, just through sheer boredom, like I had nothing else to do. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was kind of partial to a bevy before midday during COVID at times. And I was bored, and I went, I have no creative outlook. I'm not doing anything. I was going slowly insane. And I just went, what is this TikTok that everyone is banging on about? Like, what is it? And then I just download it, made a couple of videos, and then you start to follow people and like what they do. And then you just try different videos. And then one day I started to get a little bit of a following, but nothing like I've got now. Like it went a bit silly, but I was doing some fashion posts.
Right.
And one of my videos went a bit, I'm not going to say viral.
Viral.
Oh my God, it went viral. No, I don't think it was quite viral, but it blew up a bit, and then I got a few more. And then during my pregnancy, I did a lot of fashion stuff for pregnancy about because I wasn't looking forward to that at all. I like dressing up, I like makeup, I like shoes, I like hats, I like accessories, I like all these things. And I'm like, I'm just going to be a lump. This is going to be awful. And I went, no, let's take this as like a challenge that we can dress it up and make it, make fashion beautiful for pregnant women. And so I started making videos about that, gained a heap more followers during my pregnancy. Yes, all of you, my OGs in there. I love you so much.
Yeah.
And then every day, because I went nearly 2 weeks over my due date.
Okay.
And every day I went over, I gained like 10,000 followers. They're like, have you had your baby yet? And then, no, I haven't. Next day, another 10,000. And it blew up just because every day I went over.
People on the edge of their seats.
Where's the baby?
Where's the baby? Is it coming?
Yeah.
What's happening?
So that's, and then after I had my bubba, that's kind of when Instagram started to take off a bit, because I started doing the mum chats and stuff. I do a sort of segment, but it's just me having a chat and talking to other mums, and it just became a bit of a thing. Like I've called it my therapy, really. Just having a chat, and Instagram has become a little community as well. So it's really is. It sounds lots of people just think social media is a bit of a whack, really.
Yeah.
And I used to be that person, and now all of a sudden the messages I receive on a daily basis from people, saying thank you for, having a chat and whatever, and
sharing
just
that.
Absolutely. Just sharing stories, whether it doesn't matter what they are, it's just finding connection, I suppose. And it's become a really beautiful space.
I agree with you. I thought that socials was a bit of a whack, but then through COVID, I actually found so much connection with different people all over the world.
All over the world. And
I
like for me, it was, being stuck under a cluster feeding baby for hours at a time who wasn't big enough for me to be needing to make eye contact with them, but you're sitting in bed and you're bored, and so you
scroll.
You connect with people all over the world who are in different time zones, but also stuck under a breastfeeding baby. So
I had loads of people tell me that too, that they're like, I don't always get to watch your videos when you post them, but don't worry, all those midnight feeds and bits and pieces, that's when, but can you please put on the captions because I can't have any noise.
Yes. So how was your pregnancy? How did you feel through your pregnancy?
It was a dream.
Good.
Pregnancy was, dare I say it, easy.
Yep.
I didn't get morning sickness.
Oh.
I think I got it twice.
Oh, okay.
Like
Lucky.
I wasn't sick.
Yeah.
I wasn't highly emotional. I wasn't stupidly I was still at 7 months pregnant. I was still
teaching,
like dance teaching. Like I was dancing all of the time. I didn't roll around on the floor as much, but I was still, hip hop, tap, and making stuff up every week. And I didn't have any aversions to food. It was
a dream pregnancy.
It was a dream pregnancy, and I don't know if I can say that. I looked good too.
Yeah, good.
I didn't look tired, and I didn't look
You were
I just looked like
vibrant.
me, but with a
Yeah.
belly. Like it
Yeah.
was, it was, pregnancy was really nice.
And did you do much planning for your birth? You know, did you do a birth prep course or did you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did I wouldn't have. I just would have gone, she'll be right.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
fine. But I was guided by my midwife at the time to have to do a little class. It was a private one-on-one. She came to my house and did a few bits and pieces. I'm obviously a
I'm trying to find the right words.
my birth story doesn't happen to everyone, and I wasn't even almost prepared. Not
Yeah.
even almost.
Not even a tiny bit.
So the preparing in pregnancy was,
Like the class that I did, for so many people, that would be all you would need.
Yeah.
Like it was, I learnt about so many things that I didn't know, and extremely helpful if you have a pregnancy that goes to, if you have a birth that goes to plan.
yeah. Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Sure.
Just did you prepare for your postpartum though?
Not even a little bit.
Yeah. Was that so? I'm intrigued because for me, I didn't even know what the word postpartum was.
Oh, fourth trimester. What is that?
Yeah. So I was a bit the same too. So yeah, there was.
They touched on it. They touched on it in the class that I did, but it was rushed over. It was just, it was all about pre-labor, active labor. You've had your baby. This is what can happen afterwards, but thank you, that's the end, goodbye. You know what I mean? Like there was heaps of information for, when you're in the crux of the entire thing, but it wasn't so much afterwards, which is where I struggled the most.
Yeah, so let's go there, shall we?
Birth story?
Yeah.
Great. As I mentioned, I went 2 weeks over, nearly 2 weeks. It was like 12 days, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Because when you've had enough, like at the end of your pregnancy, the last couple of weeks, you're like, I've had enough now. Well, 12 days after, I was cooked. It was like, no thanks. And I had a couple of stretch and sweeps, but I had I had a stretch and sweep on the Saturday, and I was already 2 centimetres dilated then. So I reckon pre-labour had clearly already started in some capacity. And that was on the Saturday. Saturday morning I had that. And then on Sunday night at about 1 in the morning or whatever, I went into labour, and my contractions were 9 minutes apart-ish, something like that. And then it went from 9 to 6 to 3 to 2 to 7 to 9 to 24 minutes to 3 minutes to 2 minutes to 2 minutes to 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 9 minutes and I was like, what is happening? This is awful. And then I went to hospital on the Monday, so I laboured all Sunday night, all Monday.
Oh my gosh.
And went to hospital. Oh, it's just cooked.
Yeah. Cooked chook. Yeah.
Not good. Anyway, Monday night I went to hospital, and they not really a lot happened because I wasn't having contractions every 2 minutes because they were so sporadic. It just wasn't.
Did you tell them that it was that, obviously, that it was that sporadic? And what did they say?
Honestly, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't remember. But yeah, the Monday night was the longest night of my entire life because it was almost, by then it was kind of like clockwork, and I'd have a contraction every 5 minutes. It was, and again, I know they're not close together then, but when you're having one every 5 minutes for 12 hours.
Long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Monday morning came and it was about 6:30 in the morning, and I had been labouring all night and I still had no baby. And I went, I can't do this anymore. I've been in labour since Sunday. It's Monday. no, it's not. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday morning and I still haven't had a baby. I can't do this anymore. And then I had an epidural and then I had a nap, which was very nice. And then even by that point, I was still only 7 centimetres dilated. They broke my waters. I was induced this is when I was still obviously in my epidural, I'm still half asleep phase. They induced me and then eventually, this was hours later, like as I said, I went into labour on Sunday night and I didn't have a baby until Tuesday night. And then it was time to push and I pushed for, it was roughly 2 hours, I think, to get Bubba out. Unfortunately, his head was stuck. He was just, I know podcast people, you can't see me right now, but my head is on a smart angle, and he was stuck. And then they asked me at this point, can we give you an episiotomy? I didn't even know what my name was.
Yeah.
At this point, but they gave me an episiotomy. They asked if they could use forceps. They then they were, baby stuck. We need to take you to surgery. We need to. And then one of the midwives at the time were like, "Nah, she's got this. She can do it. She can."
Yeah, I was going to say, did anyone suggest any other types of interventions through that?
Yeah.
Like positions and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'd had an epidural, so it's not. I couldn't get on my hands and knees. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't do any. Being on my back was kind of the only option.
Yeah, okay.
But eventually he came out after the episiotomy and after the forceps and whatever.
Oh.
And then I tore it's close to 4, but a 3C tear. And then I hemorrhaged.
Oh.
Yep. So I lost nearly a third of my blood. So I had a hemorrhage.
My goodness.
And then I had to have, my placenta didn't come out, so then I had to have a placenta removal, a manual placenta removal as well. When Rhodey is my son, when he came out, he swallowed meconium.
Oh.
So I had him on my chest for about, 30 seconds. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But I had him on my chest for a very short amount of time before they had to take him away because he got meconium into his lungs. And
Had anyone suggested a cesarean at any point?
Nope. I asked for one. Not when I was in hospital. I don't remember whether I asked for one in hospital or not, but when it was like when I was 12 days over, I'm like, he's not coming out. I'm telling you, he's just nesting in there. Can we just go in and get him, please?
Yeah.
But of course, everyone says you don't need surgery. You don't need it. He's going to come naturally on his own, and which he did. But I was told that I didn't need to have you don't need to have surgery. You can have him naturally. You can have, because I had a birth plan, which was very just straightforward. This is my birth plan, which of course didn't go to plan. But yeah, so no, I don't ever recall being offered a cesarean in the throes of labour for 2.5 days. No.
Wow. That's, I don't know. I just, in the course of, it's almost the polar opposite of everything that we, like when I've obviously spoken to hundreds of women over the years, and it almost feels like it's the polar opposite of what actually happens with our cesarean rates going up and everything. And you would think that somewhere in there, someone would say, let's go.
Yeah.
I guess if they do that when baby's heart rate's dropping and things like that. Whereas that didn't start to happen until he was stuck. Yeah.
Like before that, there was none of that. He was fine. He was just cruising, no dramas. And it wasn't until I'd been pushing for 2 hours and he was just stuck in there, which is when the episiotomy and the forceps and the whatever came about. But so I didn't see my son for nearly 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
That's what was so brutal, was that I'd given birth to my son and he's been taken away from me to fix him, obviously, like just to make sure that he's safe.
Yeah.
But then I hemorrhaged. Then I was taken to surgery to sew up my tear because I'd torn so bad, and to remove my placenta, which wouldn't come out on its own. And then I had to go to recovery, but I didn't know where my baby was.
Yeah.
So how do they, sorry, just to go back, Jaz, how do they remove a placenta?
I don't know. I presume that they just go right on in there and just grab it and take it out. I didn't look into it. I didn't want to.
Okay.
I was already
stage you
scarred
were
enough after that. I'm
like,
like, I don't need to
Ignorance
know.
is bliss in this instance. Just,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even know that manual placenta retrieval was a thing.
But that's exactly why I'm asking, because I've never heard of it.
Well, you know, sometimes when people have retained placenta, so when you birth the placenta, they check it to make sure none's retained, because if there's some's retained, then you can hemorrhage. So that's the same thing. They would manually remove anything that's retained, pieces.
Okay.
So
Except this was
instead
a
of removing pieces, they were removing the entire
that was the whole
placenta.
thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember much from, like, obviously there's parts of that, but there must have been so much trauma for you around all of that.
Extremely, yeah. It was. I remember being in the operating theatre, and everyone in there was going a million miles an hour. Like I could hear things being dropped, or I could hear things
And
shaking
beeping
on trays.
probably,
and
was there
and
beeping?
beeping,
Yeah.
and people saying stuff that I didn't understand, and how much blood has she lost? Like just stuff.
And no one was with you talking you through what was happening?
No, not at that time. That at one stage, this beautiful nurse popped her head, because obviously I had the sheet up and all of that, and I was freezing. I remember being freezing cold, and she gave me a warm blanket and put it on me, and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I went, "I don't know. Am I? Because I don't know. I don't know what's going on." And she went, and all she said to me, she goes, "You will be fine." But again, I was just sitting there and I was terrified. I didn't know where my baby was. I didn't know.
Where's my baby? What's going on?
Am I dying? Like, am I?
Yeah.
When they gave you the episiotomy, did they say we're doing this, or
I can't remember.
yeah?
Isn't that awful? Like I can't.
No,
I can't remember.
I can imagine you were just shrouded in there would have been so much going.
Oh yeah, there were like 4 midwives. There was an obstetrician. There was another doctor. There was obviously my beautiful husband. There was
a lot of people in there.
It's just a lot of people.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and as I said, there are so many things you can prepare for, and there are so many things that I think people just don't talk about. And that's where I was just left with, what?
Yeah.
What do you, how did I not know that this could happen to me?
Was a possibility.
This is something we've spoken about a lot while we've been recording lately. It's the whole, how much do you tell people? Because you don't want to scare people, but you want
100%.
people to be prepared. And I don't think there's a one size fits all approach. It's so,
dance.
each individual,
it's
a dance. It is a
between
dance.
how do you explain, or give someone enough of a heads up that these are all normal things and it might happen, but obviously in your case that they were, it was just
Yours is
this
the worst
cascade
case
of,
scenario
like,
that nobody would ever even dream of happening.
Yeah, it was bleak. I've taken it upon myself and made a very conscious choice to talk about it. And if people ask questions, that I just tell them.
Yeah.
But I warn them, if you're not prepared for the answer, then don't ask the question, because I know loads of people that were like, "Oh, yeah, part of what happened to me, happened to you, happened to me as well. But I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to frighten you or whatever. And that happens so often that people just don't talk about it.
Right.
And I think, and I don't know. It's not a duty, but someone's got to talk about it because it's brutal. And I wasn't ready. The woman that I was before I had a baby isn't here anymore.
Yeah,
she's not here. She's not even close to here. I'm slowly building myself back up. But even on my best days, and I'm getting stronger and better. But I haven't even finished. There's more.
I know we're gonna tap into this in another episode. So we've got lots more to talk about.
Yeah, but like I forgot where I was at.
You were saying the person that.
Oh sorry. Brain doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
She's not here. And I was a shell of a woman for a really long time. And had I have had a little more insight, had I have had, do you know what? I don't even know if that would have made it any better.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
They say knowledge is power, but they also say ignorance is bliss. So I'm not quite
Which one
sure.
is it?
It's somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever probably get that dance right of how much do you tell, particularly pregnant first-time mums.
Yeah.
Once you've had a child, there's a certain amount that you're like, okay, and obviously things can still happen regardless of what you experience. But I think that first-time mum I think the system has created a narrative that just steers you in sort of one direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot that is discussed outside of that. So then that sort of in some ways, in your experience, sets you up for this constant like, what's going on? What's happening? What's going on?
Just a giant question mark.
It is, yeah.
We're going to wrap here and we are going to chat with you about the rest of your postpartum, your recovery, and
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll talk about that in our next episode. Thank you so much, Jaz.
My absolute pleasure.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.